It's early 2011, and a 26-year-old physics graduate named Ross Ulbricht is sitting in a small apartment in Austin, Texas, staring at a computer screen. He's about to launch a website. Nothing unusual about that. Thousands of people launch websites every day. Except this one won't show up on Google. You won't find it by typing a normal address into your browser. To reach it, you'll need special software, and once you're inside, you'll be able to buy almost anything, no questions asked. He calls it Silk Road. Within 2 years, it will process well over $1 billion in transactions, turn a physics grad into a wanted fugitive using the alias Dread Pirate Roberts, and become the blueprint for an entire underground economy that still exists today. This is the story of the first true empire of the dark web and the mistakes, big and small, that eventually brought it down. To understand why Silk Road mattered, you have to understand what didn't exist before it. Buying illegal drugs historically meant meeting a dealer in person, a street corner, a parking lot, a friend of a friend. It was risky, local, and limited by geography. You could only buy from people you or someone you trusted actually knew. Ross Ulbricht, by his own later writing, believed deeply in libertarian economics, the idea that people should be free to make their own choices about what they put into their bodies without government interference, and that a truly free market, left alone, would regulate itself better than any law ever could. He wasn't naive about the fact that this meant enabling a drug marketplace. He seemed to see it almost as a kind of political statement dressed up as a business. But an idea like that needs infrastructure to actually work. And by 2011, 2 pieces of technology had just matured enough to make it possible for the first time in history. The first is Tor, a browser originally developed with US Navy research funding, designed to let people browse anonymously by routing their traffic through multiple encrypted layers across a chain of volunteer-run servers. Nobody watching the network can easily tell who's connecting to what. It had existed for years already, mostly used by activists, journalists, and people living under repressive governments who needed to hide their online activity from the state, but it had never really been used as the backbone for a commercial marketplace. The second is Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency that in 2011 is still a fringe curiosity worth pennies, understood by almost nobody outside a small circle of programmers and cypherpunks. What makes it useful to Ulbricht isn't speculation or investment potential. It's that Bitcoin transactions don't require a bank, don't require your real name, and can move value across the internet without a financial institution ever seeing what the money was actually for. Put those 2 things together, anonymous browsing and anonymous payment, and for the first time, you have the 2 essential ingredients for a fully functioning online black market. Ulbricht doesn't invent either piece of technology. What he does is combine them into something nobody had successfully built before, an actual marketplace with listings, reviews, seller ratings, and customer support, functioning almost exactly like eBay or Amazon, except everything being sold is illegal. In the beginning, Silk Road is tiny, a handful of listings, mostly small quantities of psychedelic mushrooms that Ulbricht reportedly grew himself. He posts about the site on a few obscure forums under the name Altoid, trying to seed interest without drawing too much attention. For months, growth is slow and unglamorous, the kind of quiet, grinding early stage that most startups go through, except this one exists entirely in the shadows. But word spreads, slowly, then quickly. Vendors start signing up, offering everything from marijuana to cocaine to prescription pills. Buyers, who previously had no safe way to purchase drugs online, discover a platform with something genuinely new, a rating and review system. For the first time, a buyer can see whether a particular vendor reliably ships what they promise, whether their product is actually what they claim, whether the packaging is discreet. It sounds almost mundane, but in the world of illegal drug purchasing, this is revolutionary. Trust, the single hardest thing to establish in any black market transaction, suddenly has a mechanism. By mid-2011, the site catches the attention of Gawker, a mainstream media outlet, which publishes an article describing Silk Road as an online marketplace where anyone can buy drugs like they're ordering from Amazon. The article is meant as an exposé. Instead, it functions as an advertisement. Traffic to the site explodes. Within weeks, Silk Road's user base multiplies several times over, and the site that had been growing quietly in obscurity is suddenly thrust into the national conversation, catching the attention of U.S. senators who publicly demand that federal agencies shut it down immediately.
Ulbricht, now operating under the persona Dread Pirate Roberts, a name borrowed from a fictional pirate captain who passes his identity down to successors, treats the sudden scrutiny less like a threat and more like validation. The site keeps growing anyway. Over the next 2 years, Silk Road transforms from a scrappy experiment into something closer to a genuine institution. Ulbricht writes lengthy forum posts under his pseudonym, explaining his libertarian philosophy, framing Silk Road not just as a business, but as a kind of experiment in freedom, proof that people, given the tools, could build a functioning marketplace outside the reach of any government. He genuinely seems to believe he's doing something principled, even as the site becomes a conduit for hard drugs, and even as its scale starts attracting exactly the kind of attention that principled experiments in illegal activity tend to attract. Federal agencies, the DEA, the FBI, and the newly formed Homeland Security investigations begin working the case, but Silk Road's core technology makes it a genuinely difficult target. The site exists on a hidden Tor service, meaning its actual server location is deliberately obscured. Every transaction runs through Bitcoin. Every user is anonymous by design. For a while, investigators have plenty of motive and almost no viable lead. The break, when it finally comes, doesn't come from cracking Tor's encryption or from some brilliant piece of blockchain forensics. It comes from something almost embarrassingly human: Ulbricht's own early carelessness, resurfacing years later. Back in 2011, in the site's earliest days, a man posting under the username Altoid appeared in a handful of online forums, casually mentioning a new website called Silk Road, the exact same early promotional pattern investigators would later trace back to Ulbricht's own initial marketing push. Months after those posts, that same Altoid account resurfaces, but mid-2013, the FBI has a strong enough case to move. But identifying Ulbricht is only half the problem. They still need to catch him actually logged in to Silk Road's admin backend. It's a small, forgettable mistake, made in the earliest days when nobody was watching. But federal investigators, sifting through years of internet archives looking for any thread connecting the synonymous Dread Pirate Roberts to a real identity, eventually find it. From there, the picture accelerates. They connect the email address to a real name. They connect that name to a Google Plus profile Ulbricht had used to promote Silk Road indirectly, seeking programmers with what he described, half-jokingly, as an interest in the deep web. They cross-reference his social media activity, his physical location, and a rented server that, due to a technical misconfiguration, briefly leaked its real IP address, an IP address investigators trace back to a specific data center, and eventually to Ulbricht's actual usage patterns. Piece by piece, the anonymous mastermind behind one of the most sophisticated criminal marketplaces on the internet turns out to be identifiable through the same kind of small, human mistakes that trip up far less sophisticated criminals. An old forum post, a real email address, a moment of carelessness from years before anyone was watching. But mid-2013, the FBI has a strong enough case to move. But identifying Ulbricht is only half the problem. They still need to catch him actually logged in to Silk Road's admin backend, ideally with his laptop open and unlocked, giving them direct, undeniable evidence tying him to Dread Pirate Roberts in real time, before he has any chance to destroy evidence or lock down his device. On October 1, 2013, agents track Ulbricht to the Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library. Inside, seated at a table with his laptop open, he's actively logged in to Silk Road's admin panel. Two undercover agents stage a loud, distracting argument near him, a deliberate diversion. In the moment his attention shifts toward the commotion, another agent grabs his open laptop before he can react, preventing him from closing it, locking it, or triggering any kind of emergency shutdown. It works exactly as planned. Ulbricht is arrested on the spot, his laptop still open, still logged in, containing what will become the central piece of evidence in his eventual trial: years of chat logs, financial records, and private journal entries in which Dread Pirate Roberts documents, in his own words, the operation and philosophy behind the site he built. Silk Road goes offline within hours. Federal agents seize an enormous stockpile of Bitcoin from Ulbricht's personal wallets, at the time worth tens of millions of dollars, among the largest cryptocurrency seizures law enforcement had ever conducted. The case against Ulbricht extends well beyond running an illegal marketplace. Prosecutors allege that Dread Pirate Roberts, in his private communications, solicited multiple murders for hire against people he believed threatened the site's security, including a former Silk Road employee suspected of stealing funds and a blackmailer threatening to expose vendor identities. None of the alleged killings are ever proven to have actually taken place. In at least one case, the person Ulbricht allegedly paid to carry out a hit appears to have simply taken the money without doing anything at all. But the chat logs documenting his intent become a defining, damning part of the government's case, transforming the narrative from an idealistic libertarian experiment into something considerably darker. In February 2015, a jury convicts Ulbricht on all 7 charges brought against him, including narcotics trafficking, computer hacking, and money laundering. At sentencing, the judge hands down 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole, a punishment widely seen, even among critics of Silk Road, as extraordinarily severe for a non-violent first-time offender, sparking years of advocacy campaigns arguing the sentence was disproportionate. Ulbricht spends the next decade in federal prison, his case becoming a rallying point for criminal justice reform advocates and libertarian activists alike, who argue his sentence reflects a broken system rather than proportionate justice. In January 2025, President Trump grants Ulbricht a full and unconditional pardon, ending his sentence after roughly 11 years behind bars, a decision that reignites the same debate that's followed the case since 2015 over where the line falls between technological innovation, principled rebellion, and outright criminal enterprise. Silk Road itself didn't survive its founder's arrest for even a full day, but the model he built, anonymous browsing plus anonymous payment, wrapped in a user-friendly, review-based marketplace, became the permanent template for everything that came after. Silk Road 2.0 launched within weeks of the original's shutdown. When that, too, eventually fell, others rose to take its place: Evolution, Agora, Alphabay, Hansa, each one bigger, more sophisticated, and more resilient than the last, each one learning from the mistakes of whichever empire had collapsed before it. Ross Ulbricht didn't invent Tor, he didn't invent Bitcoin. What he proved, for better or worse, is that if you combine the right pieces of existing technology at the right moment, you can build something the world has never seen before: a fully functioning black market economy, hidden in plain sight, run not out of a warehouse or a street corner, but out of a laptop in a public library. The empire he built didn't last, but the blueprint did. And more than a decade later, the dark web economy he helped create is still running, one marketplace collapsing, another quietly rising to take its place, the same cycle repeating itself again and again, long after the man who started it all walked out of prison a free man.